Brothers and sisters, I would like to talk to you about the real meaning of the mark of the beast. I shall start with 144,000, Revelation 7. After I saw 4 angels standing at the 4 corners of the earth, holding back the 4 winds, so that no wind should blow upon the earth, or sea, or against any tree. And I'm going to tell you something else. It stipulates in here that the servants of God will be marked with a seal on their foreheads. And I was told that the number of those who were marked with God's seal on their foreheads, remember this people, God's seal on their foreheads was 144,000, and they were the 12 tribes of Israel, 12,000 from each tribe. I shall go on to section 14 of Revelations. Then I looked, and there was a lamb standing on Mount Zion. With him were the 144,000 people who had his name of his father written on their foreheads. Okay? They had his name and his father's name written on their foreheads. Now, just before that chapter, it stipulates, under chapter 13 of Revelations, 13:18 it says, "For this calls for wisdom. Whoever is intelligent can work out the meaning of the number of the beast, because the number stands for the human name, which is its number is 666. Before it says, which is number 16, 13:16, "The beast forced all the people, small and great and rich and poor, slave and free, to have a mark placed on their right hands or on their foreheads." They're saying here that it's the name, the beast's name or the number. Okay? What you do not know is that the beast in this context was a slur and a mockery done by Satan. The mark is actually Christ's mark. Okay? Christ's mark and God's mark placed on the foreheads. If you read the Bible and you see it with the proper eyes, and your eyes are opened, I mean, do what end of the day Enoch had to put mud on his eyes and wash them, so he can clearly see and take the grime from his eyes. And from that moment on, he was able to see things that he wouldn't have normally have seen. And I'm saying to you, brothers and sisters, wipe the mud from your eyes, cleanse it with water, and you shall clearly see that Satan has deliberately mocked you. The references in the Revelations, it's a story about Christ. For him to be suddenly referred to as a beast is a mockery. Satan's mockery. The only mark that is to be done is the mark of the living God with his Son, the Christ. Anyone else is referred to as the Antichrist, those who are against the Lord and God, those that will not accept the truth that is staring them in the face, but only wisdom can open this truth and the knowledge. Now if you go to the book of Daniel, under section 7, read it. This is an explanation as to the dream and the vision that Daniel had as regards to the beast and what the true meaning of the beast meant. Go to it. You shall see. Now, one thing that will shock you. and rock you to the core is the true name of Christ. He is actually Lucifer. He is the light bearer. The light bearer is Christ, Yeshua. They are all the same person. If you look at modern Roman Catholic Church, you'll see what's happened recently. The fact that even the Pope has now turned round and admitted that Jesus is a lie. He does not mean the person is a lie, but the name. Again, he's deceiving. It's actually the name Jesus that is the lie. So he has, in a weird way, admitted the fact that the Roman Catholic Church has lied to the people, lied to its followers for centuries. Now, you shall understand, a long time ago, when the Roman Catholic Church started, there was a temple. It had Christians in, Jewish, Muslim, pagan, all together, discussing issues of religious nature. Then something occurred that rocked the foundation and drove the religions apart. Roman Catholic started with Constantine. They chose to create the Bible. They chose to have monks scribe out what they wanted to put in. They made a pact with Satan. You say why? They made a pact with Satan for power, to be the biggest religion, to have the money and wealth that attained from it, to have the power and fear over people. That's how the Spanish Inquisition came into effect. Think about the thousands of people of different religions that were put to death because they would not follow the Roman Catholic God. The Roman Catholic God was everyone's God. The Jewish God, the Muslim God. That is why Allah, Yahweh, Anu are one and the same. But they put thousands of people to death. They went on a rampage. They made the Crusades. And this is where I stem to the Templars. The Knights Templar, brave, fearless, honourable men, went on this crusade in the name of God, sent by the Roman Catholic Church to Jerusalem. They went there, but they found the truth. They found that Christ's name was Yeshua, which was told to them by the Jews and the Muslims that were there. They found that Christ's name was Lucifer, and they practiced the true preaching and blessings pertaining to Lucifer, Yeshua. And because of this, they were branded heretics by the Roman Catholic Church, because the Roman Catholic Church did not want the truth to come out. If it came out, they would lose their power over man at the time, their influences, their wealth. The whole Roman Catholic Church would crumble into the dust from which it came. Do you understand now why the Templars were put to death, were persecuted by the Inquisition? But they still held their ground. They still held the truth. Maybe you'll understand why the Catholic Church went for them. Not just for the fact they knew the truth, but for the wealth that the Templars had accumulated. Another thing, the Knights Templars had been legionised because they had taken people safely in and out of Jerusalem. The reason being is because they found out not only the true names of Christ, but they found out that he was indeed a married man, that he had loved a human being, had children with this woman. Yes, Mary Magdalene was the wife of Christ. No ifs, no buts. She was. She had 2 children. They did have a relationship. She was meant to be the figurehead of the Christian church, alongside Peter. As you see in the Bible, particularly at that time period, the men didn't allow women to even read the Torah. They were segregated off. They didn't like the fact that Christ, in their opinion, loved this woman more than them. Peter particularly. When the crucifixion occurred, she came afterwards when he had risen. She was the first one to see him. They didn't believe her because of the fact she was a woman, and they were jealous. They weren't going to listen to a woman. And from that time onwards, the other female apostles, the female disciples who had written their own gospels that would have tallied alongside theirs, were wiped clean. They made sure that any gospel that was buried alongside these ladies were ripped apart, were ruined. The tombs were desecrated. The Roman Catholic Church was set up in such a manner so that women could not become a pope, could not become a head of that church. Do you understand now why this has occurred? They certainly were not going to allow women to have equal say. But Christ himself had set out to make sure this had been the case from day one. That equal parts and balance were to be achieved. The Roman Catholics did not want this. They also prevented their priests from ever loving another human being in a relationship, to ever have offspring themselves. They were denied to have a family. And the reason for this is so the Catholic Church can have power over them, to make the Catholic Church be feared among people, so they have their power over you. They even stop you from ever relieving yourself in a sexual manner. They prevent you from having children unless you are in a relationship as a marriage. And because of this, it's caused a lot of modern day problems with people having sexual relation, because they say the sperm is sacred. Control over people again. Only now in modern times has the false prophet, the Pope, realised that he can actually use this as a form of damage. It states that the false prophets shall bring down the church, so shall cause chaos. Nostradamus himself has seen this in a quatrain, where the Roman Catholic Church is crumbled to dust in the latter days from the false prophet. What he is doing is telling you part truths now. He is saying, yes, the name of Jesus is a lie, and the Bible, because he knows the truth, the fact that there was a pact with the Satan, but he's using it in such a manner now to cause chaos. So do you understand? Yes, you were. Even though he was the Son of God, he loved. He said, love is good. He was not a chaste virgin, as the Catholic Church would have you believe. And only now, in the end of days, are some people beginning to awaken. The next clips I shall show you is from a discussion relating to the final Pope, and I will explain in between where they are right or where they are wrong. Thank you.
As just a short review, what, based on the prophecies out of the Vatican that were hidden for all these generations, are they anticipating with the final Pope?
Well, the idea among both Catholics and Protestant scholars is that he will be the final Pope. He is the one who is going to be residing over the Vatican as it enters into the Great Tribulation period, and there's also the belief among even some of the Catholic mystics that he might be a false Pope, an anti-Pope, somebody who helps give rise to the Antichrist.
Well, the prophecy of the popes was allegedly given to Saint Malachi Morgare, an Irish saint, in 1139 AD. Now, the way that this story is told, Malachi made a pilgrimage to Rome to see the Pope, and right outside of the city of Rome, he had a vision of all the popes up until the tribulation period. So he wrote down a series of short Latin phrases for 112 popes, except the last one, which is quite a bit more detailed. The last prophecy, the prophecy for the very next pope, says, in the extreme persecution of the Holy Roman Church, there will sit Peter the Roman, who will nurse the sheep in many tribulations. When they are finished, the city of Seven Hills will be destroyed, and the dreadful judge will judge his people.
Now, the question that I have, what have you uncovered from records in the Vatican about aliens? I mean, it blows my mind that they're even researching such a subject as this.
Well, the records in the Vatican go back centuries. Actually, I wrote 2 chapters of history concerning the Vatican's interest in extraterrestrials. They have a whole theology developed around what they call the principle of plenitude, meaning anything that God could do, he would do. So they consider the existence of aliens an inevitable consequence of God's omnipotence.
Now, you've actually researched with Vatican astronomers. What do they tell you?
Yeah, it's extraordinary. We even had the opportunity to go to Mount Graham in Arizona, which is where their Vatican Astronomical Technology Telescope, called that, where it's at, where the Vatican's astronomers study the deep space. And in the course of doing that, getting permission through the Arizona State University to go there to meet with their astronomers, the Jesuits who are there, we also got access to top astronomers that work in Rome, including an astronomer by the name of Guy Cosmonago. He's one of the top astronomers for the Vatican.
What was the major thing you got from that interview with him?
Oh, well, 2 major things. One, he says without apology that very soon the nations of the world are going to look to the aliens for their salvation. Now, when you make a comment like that...
Did you just hear what he said? Does that show you how fast things are moving and how we're really in the last of the last days?
And then, of course, you want to get behind that, right? You want to find out where are they coming from. So he agreed to be interviewed 5 times from Rome, and then gave us documents which are not available to the public that outline what much of the inner thinking of the highest level theologians and astronomers at the Vatican believe now, including the idea that Jesus might be the son of a star child. Now, when we ask him what is a star child, right, they're talking about an alien intelligence from another world, and that the birth of Jesus Christ, the virgin birth, was in fact comparable to an abduction scenario in which these aliens used the Virgin Mary to create Jesus. And this is one of the ways in which they're combining the idea that we are soon to be visited by an alien savior from another world.
This part is correct also. Remember January 2011 when the Christ returned. It was seen globally. This was the Messiah's return.
I promised you we would find out this great Catholic astronomer, the #1, is operating with something called Project Lucifer. What is that?
Well, up on top of Mount Graham in Arizona, there's an observatory complex that consists of 3 very high-powered telescopes. One is the Vatican Advanced Technology Telescope. There's a radio telescope, and then there's one called the Large Binocular Telescope. This is the most powerful telescope in the world. In fact, they told us they can get better images of space than the Hubble Space Telescope can. Now, attached to this telescope is an infrared camera named Lucifer, which is really a kind of an odd name for a camera. And you know, from the information that we gathered, this thing was named by the Max Planck Institute and some German astronomers. But the Vatican is part of this conglomerate up there, and they're all working together. Now, what this instrument's used for is astrobiology, for looking for exoplanets, looking for other worlds. And the infrared spectrum is also very useful for seeing things that can't be seen with the naked eye. And many UFO researchers have noted that you can see a lot of ships and entities that you normally can't see.
Tell me about what the Vatican astronomers are telling you, or what others, experts, I mean, you had a research team.
Right.
Tell me a few of the things they're telling you.
Well, first of all, the day that we spent it on Mount Graham, the entire day there, we had the Jesuits speaking to us face to face. We also had systems engineers. It was astonishing, the access that they gave us. And one of the things we found amazing in the use of the Lucifer device and even the other telescopes is how commonly the astronomers spoke of UFOs. We were just taken back by the fact that it was almost a nuisance to them that there are so many.
I have to tell you, UFOs, I mean, I think that's like science fiction, to be quite candid with you. But I told my staff about this interview, and one of the staff members said when he was 12 or 13 years old, he saw a UFO, and they visited him and talked to him. I mean, and that's just a small group of people. And statistics say 1 out of 2 people in America believe in UFOs, unidentified flying objects. And we're hearing now reports all over the world.
Well, and a lot of Christians have saw them too. My wife and I were crossing over a mountain one time when a circular silvery device dropped down from the heavens, shot around, done all kinds of things we couldn't explain. We didn't know if it was an angel, a demon, or whatever it was, but it certainly was what people describe as UFOs. And so the phenomenon, to me, is certainly real. Then, of course, you begin defining what it is. Well, to the Vatican and to the astronomers...
But wait a second, it's demonic. Why would the Vatican be studying this?
Yeah, well, not only are they studying it, Corrado Balducci, who was the spokesman for the Vatican, He was their official mouthpiece concerning the alien presence, not just the reality of aliens on other worlds, but an alien presence that is here on Earth now. You can go to YouTube and watch his shows on Italian television when he spoke for the church and said that the church was using its embassies around the world to compile information, a case study, if you will, on what the aliens are doing on Earth now. So the belief system is deep, regardless of what you or I might make out of it. And I got to tell you, especially when it comes to alien abduction, I am convinced that we are talking about demonic activity, not intelligences from another world, maybe from another dimension. And they're moving in and out of our reality. They certainly have a conspiratorial plan that might even involve human hybridity. There's a lot to the study. That's why it took us thousands of pages and 6 investigators, and I had to bring a theologian on to make sure that I didn't get off track, right? But what they're saying to us now is it's going to affect Christian belief. There is a professor for the Pope's University in Rome, and he is a very highly respected intellectual. His last name is Tanzaniti, and he has written a paper now in which he is saying that very soon, not right in the beginning, we won't have to deny our Christian faith in the beginning. But there is information coming from another world, and once it is confirmed, it is going to require a rereading of the gospel as we know it. And that's the kind of information that we are receiving from the highest levels of Vatican intelligentsia.
Now you know why they call their project Lucifer. Why call a project after Lucifer when it's supposed to be a bad name? Quote, because it is not. They're using Christ's real name, one of his real names. It also proves just how much the Vatican knows the truth but will not tell you. The only thing that he has got wrong is the fact that he thinks that these craft, these aliens, are demonic. They are not. Christ did say that God's fleet, his kingdom, was coming. His armies are fast approaching. You will notice the fact that this is true. The increase in UFO sightings around the world has gone from a small amount each year to a significant number.
I'm interrupting this show with a special announcement. We have a new pope, and he's St. Francis. His parents are Italian. According to the Malachi prophecy, the last pope would be Roman. Also, he's the first Jesuit pope, and next week you'll find out how the Jesuits are involved in the last days. Talk about the Vatican's secret plans for welcoming an alien God with a small g under the reign of the last pope. As just a short review, what, based on the prophecies out of the Vatican that were hidden for all these generations, are they anticipating with the final pope?
Well, the idea among both Catholics and Protestant scholars is that he will be the final pope. He is the one who is going to be residing over the Vatican as it enters into the Great Tribulation period. And there's also the belief among even some of the Catholic mystics that he might be a false pope, an anti-pope, somebody who helps give rise to the Antichrist.
Let me tell you something. Judaism, Christianity, and other religions have focused on the year 2012. You know, remember the Mayan prediction, the end of the world in 2012? So everyone's discounted all of that, but that's not exactly what the prediction said. What did it say?
In the conferences where I spoke last year, I kept telling people, don't say it's the end of the world. That's not what the Maya said. That's not what the Aztecs said. That's not what the Cherokee Indians said, all of whose calendar rolled over at the end of 2012. What was it that they were saying? They were saying 2012 was the end of an era, and 2013 marks a new dispensation. Now, the Maya said some things that were very interesting. They said it would be marked by the emergence of 2 great male figures who would emerge upon upon the earth. They sound very much like they're talking about the false prophet
Right.
and the Antichrist. They talked about their god Bolyon Yakteku, the spirit of it, coming up from out of the underworld. Now, what does this God do? He guards the bones and the seed of the giants that are in the underworld, and that spirit would begin to rise in the year 2013, giving birth even to a new form of humanity.
You're talking about what I've read about and pondered so many times in the Bible. Maybe you've read this about the Nephilim, where the sons of God cohabited with the daughters of humans and produced great giants. That's what it sounds like
That's
to me.
exactly what I'm talking about. And furthermore, turn of the century preachers, including Jonathan Edwards, marked the year 2012 to 2016 as the date when the false prophet and the Antichrist would appear. Dozens of Protestant reformers marked these years hundreds of years ago. Not only that, and you appreciate this with your Jewish ministries, the Zohar, one of the most important books of Jewish Kabbalah ever written.
It is accepted in traditional Judaism as coming from God. It's not all from God, I can tell you as a fact, but it's an interesting situation that it talks about.
In a section of the Zohar called Signs Heralding Mashiach, the Coming of the Messiah, they marked the year 5773, which in the Jewish calendar began in September 2012 and comes through into this year 2013, and said that was the time. In fact, much of the prophecy sounds almost identical to the prophecy of the popes. It is a time that will lead to the destruction of Rome, and more importantly, they said, at that time Messiah will begin making himself known to the nations of the world. This 700 years ago prophesied that between 2012 to 2013, the emergence of the Messiah would appear on earth, almost an identical parallel to cultures around the world that for thousands of years saw these dates specifically as the time when the end times would begin.
Speaking of
Right, just a correction. It is not the Antichrist after the Pope. It is anti the Christ. People who are against the Christ. Okay? So now you know.
Again, what Vatican experts have told us when Father Malachi Martin was asked, why is the Vatican, why do they have a presence on Mount Graham? And one of the things we haven't had time to talk about is Mount Graham is sacred to the Apache. It is a stargate through which they've for centuries have seen creatures that come, that move back and forth.
now, this is right in Arizona.
This is in Arizona. And in fact, their creation mythos is that a disc came down and a bearded guy in the disc, who was the father of creation, was what established Mount Graham as a holy mountain. Well, anyway, when Malachi Martin was asked, why is the Vatican on Mount Graham? What are they doing up there? He said that they're using their telescope to watch something. And when he was pressed on the question, he said it's because at the highest levels of the Vatican governance, they know what is approaching the earth, and it will be of the utmost importance in coming years.
The Vatican is using the Lucifer Project telescope. It is using it for what you refer to as wormwood. Wormwood is Nemesis, Nibiru, with its diadems. It is the kingdom of God, which is fast approaching. The Messiah is here. Isa, Lucifer, Yeshua, Lord Real, Word of God. He is here to judge. He is here for those who have the wisdom to see the truth. And I say this in his name. Amen.